Hi there everyone, my name's Louis and it's my mission to aid your awakening. And in today's video I'm going to basically outline the mindset shift that changed my life from a few years ago, from being in a very lost place and having the perspective of worry and fear and being very focused on the external as opposed to focused on the internal. And the mindset shift that took place was that of seeing my life in a process-oriented way. Not focused so much on external results and the change of my external reality, but more the process of enabling change, being non-resistant to change, and viewing myself, the changes in myself and changes in my life, and my inner life primarily, as being a more of a process-oriented approach, having a process-oriented approach to how I viewed life. So guys, you may have come onto this channel and you've probably heard me talk about the awakening process, the enlightenment process, the process of waking up, the process of growing spiritually, and all the different phases that come into that, the hermit phase, the reprogramming your subconscious phase. So you might hear a lot of me mentioning the idea of process. Now, whether or not you believe you're on the awakening process, because the definition of that isn't so clear and can encompass a whole range of different things, different experiences that may not be on the surface to appear to be very spiritual, let's say. I'm going to do another video on this. I'm going to talk about what actually waking up is. But for now, guys, I think I'm going to talk about the benefits of how having a process-oriented approach to how you view your life, whether or not you believe it to be a spiritual process or another form of process, is really beneficial in how you can really develop yourself, and how having this approach is really a great way of self-improvement and can really enable you to see more results, not only in the external but in the internal, which is basically revolved around focusing on the internal. They say your inner reality reflects your outer reality, and that's absolutely true during this awakening process, when, especially in the initial stages, you're experiencing a lot of fear, you're experiencing a lot of resistance, you're experiencing a lot of anxiety, existential dread can be a big factor as well, and you're basically very confused about who you are, maybe feeling lost, and that inner reality is reflected on the outside. The world may suddenly, the lens with which you've previously filtered reality has come off, and your awareness is expanding, but also to an extent where you can see a lot of the darkness that you previously didn't know about yourself, and it's also you can see previously out there. You see perhaps more people struggling, more people that are depressed, more people that just are generally discontented, which is very common throughout society. Lots of people are generally discontented and they're not quite sure what about. So they're using things also to deal with this pain they might be feeling, to deal with this discontentment, to feel with this existential boredom. And lack of urgency they might be experiencing in life. Lack of alertness is definitely a significant factor. So guys, and this goes out to anyone else who's also taken time to really invest in themselves and really figure out what their problem is, and to do deep inner work, inner clearing, whatever you want to call it, where you're releasing patterns of trauma, you're releasing patterns of negative emotions, maybe learning about yourself, how you react to things emotionally, and learning to deal with that now. And you're starting to grow and you're starting to expand. And this expansion comes, you feel like you're occupying a greater space, you're opening up the space of your being, and it's really putting you on a great path. You feel like you have now more momentum, positive momentum going forwards. Everything becomes more clearer in your reality. You're doing the clearing work, you're clearing out blockages within yourself so that you can come into life with a much more clearer perspective, clearer mind, and able to more clearly focus on what you want to achieve in life. And the more you clear, the more you realize you can actually manifest. You have the power over your reality, you're grounded in your reality, and you can really do and make what you want to happen in life. You really experience that self-power, that inner power which is growing within yourself. That's all fantastic. So if you're on this path already, you're probably already taking a process-oriented approach. You're already meticulously thinking about, how can I improve on this level? How can I improve different aspects of my life? Be it dating, be it success in work, be it career, be it working towards a passion, doing something you love, you're really experiencing the urgency of life, and you're seeing how time is very limited on this earth. It goes so quickly life can be over. So what you're doing is really trying to make every single day count, do something, and really, not a lot of people have found their passion yet. It took me a very, very long time. This may be my passion, it may not be. This is what I'm drawn to do at this moment, and I'm just following the inner guidance that I'm getting, and that inner guidance is supporting me towards the sort of life I want to live, and this is an aspect of it. This is a manifestation of that. So anyway, the process. So when you're doing this, you're probably likely, if you're doing all these things, you're probably likely to be living a process-oriented approach. You're looking at your life and you're thinking, this has changed within me. You're looking back thinking, oh, I changed, I came a long way from being from there. What's the next thing I need to do? Taking that process-oriented approach. Unfortunately, a lot of people haven't yet chosen to take this approach, or haven't really discovered it, or living a life based on external results, where you're more based upon your narrative, your inner narrative. So your story is really dictating how your life is. You're in reaction to an extent. Instead of coming inwards and figuring out what I want to do and consciously going forwards and trying to achieve that, you're instead more going along. You're in a state of reaction where you're sort of doing what you're told. You think the next step, either say whoever has inspired you, whoever you feel pressure from to act or to do a certain thing in life, maybe your parents, very common one. People can live to a very old age still feeling like they have to fulfill expectations put on them by their parents from when they were younger. So they follow a career, they're not that particularly interested, they haven't really received much inner guidance, so if they want to do that, it's not much of a choice. You're sort of pushed into a position, so you follow a career path, you get that job, and then you're sort of just living, and you have this story in your life, well, this happened then, this happened to me, instead of you looking back and thinking, can I change that story? Can I change my interpretation of the past? That's having more of a conscious-oriented approach. Maybe that did happen, but did that really happen the way I think it did? Did those people that I thought didn't like me, did they actually like me? Or can I now, like I talked about in my surrender video, can I now see that once I got myself to a higher state of being, the story changes, and the problem that was previously there, you realise doesn't exist. You get to a higher state, you look down at the early problem, and you realise that was never really a problem. That embarrassment you felt, you may have been so intense in the moment and made you regret the action you took to lead you to be embarrassed. But later on, you get to a higher state and you actually look down and you're proud of yourself for taking that action. And you realise that there's nothing wrong with that embarrassment. And that embarrassment was actually, the idea that you're embarrassed is actually based upon falsehoods that the people would judge you as much as they did, because maybe they didn't even care. Most likely they don't even care. So you're starting to get to more of a conscious awareness. You're looking at your past, you're looking at how you can influence the present, and how you can influence the present and go forward in more harmonious state of being, let's say. So you're doing a lot of this inner work. This is a process-oriented approach, whereas the rationale for adopting a process-oriented approach, whether or not you believe you're on an awakening process, I believe it's great to believe you're on a process no matter what. This is what really took me from point A to point B. This is really what changed my life and built an enormous amount of positive momentum for me to continue taking action, for me to get out of a real desperate state of social anxiety and depression. When I was in university, it took me away from that state, believe it, and it gave me so much positive momentum. Because what I felt like was that I was on a process, and I know that if you're experiencing what I've talked about, if you resonate with my content, you're also on a process. And no matter if you believe it, if you have factual evidence, if you can relate to my videos or not, it's still great to believe you're on a process. Beliefs form your reality. This is what I talked about in the way you can reprogram your subconscious. Your subconscious mind tells you that your beliefs create your reality, because your beliefs are feeding into your subconscious mind, even when you're not consciously thinking. Like I said, it's 30,000 times more powerful. So therefore, as a result, the rationale for this process is, life is just like a transient dream. For me, there are a few things I wanted to achieve when I was younger, and I thought when I got them, when I had that experience, or when I got that feeling, or when I had that experience, it would change my life forever. I would just be so happy. It'd be complete. It'd be fantastic once this thing happened. But really, when you think back to those experiences, can you really remember it? The things you wish, you could recall and fantasize about, I think you know where I'm getting with this. Those things you want to be able to recall, can you really memorize them that intensely? I doubt you can. And it happened to me. I gained a lot of these things which I thought would bring me a lot of pleasure, a lot of fulfillment. These temporary experiences, all very transient. And when I think back to them now, I can't really remember them that well. But what I do know and what I can remember and what still stays with me today is the work I do on the inside. Because after all these transient experiences, like a dream, disappear. They may have been great, they may have been terrible, but even the hardest experiences, when you look back to them, and those are later along in their journey, or if you're starting your journey, it's really hard. You may look back on it and, like me, I think it wasn't that bad. I know it was bad, but can I experience that again from my memory? Can I feel the intensity? No. Because everything comes and it goes, but the only thing that remains is you. You're the only thing that remains throughout this dream. You're the only thing. So going inwards and viewing what's happening internally as a process can really harness you and build up your resilience against the outside, no matter what. No matter if it's really great or no matter if it's absolutely terrible. Knowing that it's all part of just a process and that these events will soon pass. Whatever you're experiencing, if it's great, be in the moment. Enjoy it while it lasts. If it's horrible, if you're having a really tough time, just know that it shall pass. But if you're having a terrible time, know that this too shall pass. Say those words, this too shall pass. And in the future, you're going to look back from a higher state of being and see that the problem you're experiencing now wasn't much of a problem if you take that internalized approach and see your life as a process. The funny thing is, in my opinion, the kind of process-oriented approach that some people have and a lot of people don't have is that the people that don't have it are more focused on their reality as an externalized result. So instead of trying to change their reality, they're more accepting of, this is the way things is, this is the way I am, and I've just got to be myself, so I'm not going to change, and my outer reality is as it is. I happen to have these circumstances, build up a story about the things that I didn't even choose to change. These are my circumstances. I'm this person in this life, and my parents want me to do this, or some things in my life have forced me to be in this position. And that's taking a very reactionary approach and accepting the results around them as they are. Now, the funny thing is, when you're in a process-oriented approach, I always talk about accept and trust. Accept and trust. Accept the situation. The funny thing is, I'm more referring to accepting your inner state of resistance. Even if you don't like your external reality, you want to change your external reality, that's great. You want it to be more aligned with who you are on a deeper level, not just the person society has told you are, but who you know you to be on a soul level. You want to change your reality to reflect that. That's great, but in order to actually get those results, you must first do the inner journey, the inner work you've got to do as a process that you are being healed, you are releasing those limiting beliefs, those limiting mindsets, you're releasing those negative emotions that have stopped you from taking action in the past, or have literally prevented you from doing anything because of the anxiety and fear that comes up. But if you know that you're on a process, that is being healed, and slowly you've got to take that action, take that first step into that fear, step into that discomfort, in order for the changes to occur, and then the next time you do it, there won't be that fear, because you've gone up against it. All the while, you're accepting that you're in a process. All the while, you're learning to love yourself. You're learning to love the deeper you that's changing, that is evolving, as opposed to the you that you've been told by society or whoever, or you've previously thought yourself as. Your ego has built that image of yourself as. You're more in touch with that force of making your life better, that the process is going on. Love the process. The more you love the process, the more you surrender to it, the more you yield to it, the quicker your external reality will change, all the while your internal reality is changing for the better. Another thing, I was watching a clip from a David Goggins interview the other day, and they were asking him, David, how did you do it? He previously went from being very overweight to being able to push his body through such extremities, to be able to do amazing things with his body. Like go through, I think, 5 hell weeks of the Navy SEAL training, like the hardest, toughest combat training. And he chooses willingly to do it again and again. Just to better himself, just to push himself, just to struggle even more. And they asked him, David, how come whenever people says, they're going to break a habit, they don't do it. They say they're going to change, or they say every year, I'm going to get in better shape, but they give up. What is the reason for that? David said, it's because everyone has this goal, this ideal, they immediately want a six-pack, or they immediately want to have this beautiful transformed body that they're imagining, or they straight away want the dreams. And it's actually that fantasy that's stopping them from getting the fantasy or living what they dream about. It's because they see such a gulf between them as they are and that distant future, that ideal future, that dream, that they just give up. They say, oh, it's not going to happen, it's not going to be me. Instead, when you're in touch with yourself, when you're in touch with your inner process going on, when you believe that there's a process, you know that success happens in small steps. And that's what David Goggins said. He said, I celebrated every time I lost 5 pounds. I think it was previously nearly 300 pounds. Every time I lost 5 pounds, there's a celebration. It's about celebrating those small steps, knowing it's a process, knowing that you can never get to the other side until you take every single small step along the way. So that's what I'm going to leave you guys to think with. Just trust that this is a process you're going on. Trust that it is happening. It is already happening. All you need to do is yield to it and push yourself. Go into that discomfort. All the while accepting the discomfort when it comes, not fighting it, and just putting each little step in front of the other. Because life is a transient. The only thing that we will keep with when you finally approach your deathbed is that person you've become, or the challenges you've become on the inside. So if you believe there's a process, and don't put your focus, instead of the outer reality, put your focus on the inner reality. The funny thing is, the more you give up on the outer reality, the more focus on here, your outer reality will actually blossom, just as the gardens you're cultivating within are also blossoming. So that's it, guys. I'll leave you with it there. Blessings, blessings, blessings. We're going to love. I want everyone to love and trust the process together that we're all on. Till next time, goodbye.